Good evening. My name is Cheryl Evans. I'm the Director of Home Flood Protection at the Intact Center on Climate Adaptation. We're based at the University of Waterloo. My presentation is called Get Started Today to Reduce Your Risk of Home Flood Damage. I'll talk a little bit about the growing cost of flooding in Canada, the connection with climate change, and then dive right into some tips for practical actions you can take at your home to reduce risk of flood damage and some considerations for flood insurance as well. Now, first of all, let's dive right into some home water damage fast facts. Did you know that water surpassed fire as Canada's most common cause of insurance claims over 20 years ago? The insurance industry often says that flood is the new fire. The majority, or 60%, of water claims are caused by leaking appliances and water pipes, and the remainder are split between sewer backups, sump pump failure, and overland flooding caused by heavy rainfall. All Canadian homes are at risk of flooding for these sources, and only roughly 5% of Canadian homes face additional risk due to overland flooding from rivers, lakes, and oceans. And those risks involve force exerted by moving water on walls and foundations of homes, as well as damage caused by collision of debris in moving water. Could be anything from ice or trees, whatever is carried in the moving water. And also property erosion can erode underneath a home or a building and damage the structural integrity of the building. In terms of the impacts of flooding, they are big and on the rise, unfortunately. The insurance industry since about 83 has been recording annual average catastrophic insurable losses. So that means they add up any single event that costs $25 million or more, so a catastrophic loss, that impacts the insurance industry in Canada. So from 1983 to 2008, on average, it could be expected that the insurance industry would pay out $405 million per year for cat losses. And from 2009 to 2018, the trend started to arc upwards. And now we sit at about $1.8 billion per year on average for cat losses. Over 50% of those costs are attributed to flooding. And the uninsurable losses, so those not covered by insurance, are covered by governments and homeowners. And unfortunately, those are 3 to 4 times that amount. In response to the very large uptake in costs associated with losses, the insurance premiums for homes have gone up on average 20 to 25% in the last 5 years. 15% of that increase is due to water damages. So this presentation is not just about talking about what some of the challenges are, it's looking at realistically what are some of the opportunities to reduce risk for residents. So there are many things that are essentially out of the control of residents, but some things that are within the control, and that's what we'll focus on today. So outside of the control of residents are things like increases in extreme rain events and winter melts linked to climate change, aging infrastructure in municipalities that needs to be upgraded, and there's just not enough funds yet to make all needed updates, loss of wetlands, forests, meadows, and more paved surfaces due to increased development. And the other piece that we'll talk about today is the lack of household level flood protection. So things like not completing maintenance or equipment breaking or cracks in foundation, etc. Now, when you look at it in the grand scheme, only the household level, so within the property boundaries and the home itself, are under the control of residents. So that's what we're going to focus on today, what is under your control to manage. Now, flooding is complicated, and it's great to get started on your own, do some self-assessments, some basic work, but always there is an important consideration for working with government agencies, insurance, and with local qualified professionals, just to help you round out your information. And when you and a variety of supports are looking at what you're going to do to reduce your risk, you're going to look at a variety of options, and it depends on the type of flooding that you're dealing with, the severity of the risk, and your short and longer term risks. What my program focuses on is the highest level of protection that is most commonly needed for everyone in Canada. So that is rainfall and sewer backup related flooding. The approach to managing those risks is called dry flood proofing. So the idea is to defend your home, keep the water off your property and out of your home. And when there is the anticipation that will be quite a strong event or a significant event, you can also supplement with temporary barriers. Now, this can apply to everyone in Canada and can help reduce the risk of impacts. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I just want to note that for properties that are beside rivers or coastlines, that other approaches are also important to consider. So wet flood proofing is one of the approaches that can be taken. The idea is that essentially you design a building so that water can go in through the building and back out. It can get wet, but then dry off quickly. Of course, temporary barriers are great for those situations as well. You can also elevate the buildings. The most extreme situations, you would consider relocating the building, either putting it higher up on a parcel of land or removing it altogether. So depending on the extremity of the risk, this is a complex decision, and it's something a decision that you make with support from professionals after taking some time to consider. So diving right into home flood protection, which is the focus of the work that I do, that is on the main considerations are around dry flood proofing. So the main principles are to keep water out, remove it quickly if it gets in, and reduce risk of damage by selecting flood-resistant storage options, furnishings, and building materials just in case it gets in and will do minimal damage. So things to remember about this type of flood risk reduction, and all types actually, is protecting each home is unique, and it's based on the lot level characteristics and of course the influences of community level characteristics. For example, if you're near a river or an ocean. And the other thing to note is action taken to protect homes can reduce but not eliminate risk. So at our center, we created a flood risk assessment protocol, and we worked in a variety of communities, and with homeowners, we assessed over 510 homes. Now, we looked at 80 features around the home, physical features as well as maintenance practices, and when we boiled down all of our results, it became very clear that the same things were coming up again and again and again at most homes. So what we did is we created a very simple infographic that provided 3 clear steps that people can take to reduce risk, that look at the simple things you do first, then the more complex, and then the more expensive, more complex things that you do last. So what we found first of all was critically important is to maintain what you've got at least twice per year. These hopefully are things that you're familiar with already. So remove debris from the nearest storm drain and ditch and culvert, clean out your eaves troughs, check for leaks in plumbing and fixtures, test your sump pump, and clean out your backwater valve. So it's good to do those things in spring and fall. But particularly if a huge rainstorm is coming, you can also do a little extra check to make sure everything's fine. Second of all, you can very easily go to the hardware store and get some simple materials and complete some simple upgrades. One, if the fire department permits it, you can put on some window well covers to keep the water out of your window wells and out of your basement. And you can extend your downspouts to about 2 meters from your home or to the nearest drainage swale. You can take your valuables and toxic materials such as paint, put them in plastic containers and lift them high up on a shelf so that if water gets in, they don't get damaged. You can remove any material that's sitting on your floor drain so that if water comes in, it can quickly drain away and minimize damage. And you can also get a wide variety of flood alarms to let you know if there's a problem so you can attend to it as quickly as possible. Finally, if you work with your government agencies, insurers, and qualified professionals, you can consider things like raising the height of your window wells to 4 to 6 inches above the ground. If you have a downspout that's connected into the ground, you can cut it off, seal where it goes into the foundation drain, and extend the downspout to about 2 meters. You can correct your grading, you can install a backwater valve, and you can also install a backup sump pump and backup battery. Now, for situations where people tend to have large volumes of water settling around their house, if they're near a river or if they're in sort of a depressed area of the neighborhood, they could consider buying some temporary barriers. Those barriers are used before an event happens. You could put a barrier at an opening, so at a window and a door, or around the perimeter of your property to stop water from coming onto your property. And you also need to be paying attention to the weather and to warnings, for example, from your conservation authority about what's coming up in terms of storms or floods so that you can prepare ahead of time, because some barriers like these pull down barriers of a window and door can take just minutes to pull down, but others can take days, for example, putting up thousands of sandbags. And we have a great resource that provides different types of barriers that you can consider getting. Now, the other thing we learned through our research is that people have very limited understanding of insurance and flood insurance in particular. So we like to share those main messages so people can help themselves. So first of all, a lot of people don't know that insurance is only designed to cover sudden and accidental losses. If it can be shown that you should have known about a slow leak or a slow predictable problem, then you may not get insurance because it's not meant to cover that. Also, widely available is water damage coverage for flooding, leaks from plumbing and appliances. It's covered in all comprehensive homeowner policies, but there's only limited availability of other types of flood insurance, and it depends on if your insurance company considers you eligible or not. You may purchase additional coverage for sewer backup flooding, underground water and sewer line flooding, or overland flooding. So that's been available since 2015. Some other important tips: because insurance is not meant to cover maintenance, it's important that you complete your seasonal maintenance activities every spring and fall. And if you're going to be away for more than a few days, have a friend or an alarm service monitor your home so that you can keep your insurance coverage. Also, insurance policies are designed only to restore the insured property to its former condition. So, in the event of a flood, what you can do is get one quote to restore the property and one quote to build back better. Something fantastic is you can work with your insurance company for them to pay the basic amount and you pay the difference so that you can have a build back better, more protected basement than you did before. So the other piece is to shop around for insurance coverages because all products and companies are different. Finally, to get additional self-help resources, please visit homefloodprotect.ca. And if you would like to reach out to me for any questions or suggestions, please feel free at c8evans@waterloo.ca. Since I still have 20 seconds, I want to note that we do have a flood risk self-assessment tool that's through that link, and you can do a flood risk assessment in 5 minutes and it'll give you a quick confidential report to get you started. Thank you very much and best of luck, everybody.